Next we have Jeff Kirschner, who is the founder of Litterati, and he's going to be talking to us today about using technology to clean the planet. Please welcome Jeff.
Good morning. Good morning. So this story begins with these two, my kids. We were hiking in the Oakland woods when my daughter noticed that somebody had thrown a plastic tub of cat litter into a creek. And she looked at me and she said, "Daddy, that doesn't go there." And I know it sounds like a cliche, but that was an eye-opening moment for me. And when she said that, it reminded me of when I was a kid, going to summer camp in upstate New York. I'd go away for 2 months, and on the morning of visiting day, before they'd let our anxious parents come barreling through the gates, our camp director would say, "Quick, everybody, I want you to all go out and pick up 5 pieces of trash." So now you got a couple hundred kids, each picking up 5 pieces. And within a few minutes, we had a much cleaner camp. So I thought, why can't we apply that same crowdsourced cleanup model to the entire planet? And that was the inspiration for starting Litterati. The vision of Litterati is to create a litter-free world. But let me show you how it works. You find a piece of litter, you photograph it with Instagram, you add the hashtag Litterati, and then you throw out, recycle, or compost the litter. So I started doing just that. This was the first picture I ever took, a photo my daughter loves to refer to as the butt crack photo, which still gets a laugh every time. And I took a few more. And over the course of a couple of days, I noticed 2 things happening to me personally. The first was, litter suddenly became approachable. It went from being this blight I wanted nothing to do with to a creative photo opportunity. The second thing that happened, and frankly the thing that was much more powerful, was that I realized I was keeping a record of the impact I was having on the planet. I looked at my camera roll and I saw 20 photos. That was 20 things that were no longer on the ground. I knew that translated into some sort of quantifiable good, but I had no idea what I could do with any of that information. So I started telling people what I was doing, and they started participating. And so I went out and built Litterati.org, and we put up what we call the Digital Landfill, which is nothing more than a photo gallery of all the Litterati hashtag photos from Instagram. And one day this photo showed up, and I said to my wife, "My God, we've made it to China." And she said, "Take it easy, my brother's traveling in China, he's the one that took the photo." But that's not what's important. What is important is that this photo was really a seminal moment for me, because it made me realize that while the pictures are absolutely beautiful, there's something much more impactful, and it's all the data. So from an Instagram photo, we're able to tell at a fundamental level who, what, where, and when. We know who took a picture of what, we know where because of the geotag, and we know when because they have a timestamp. So then we put together a Google map, and we started plotting points where litter was being picked up. Lake Merritt in downtown Oakland. I run around this lake, and I noticed that 90% of what had been picked up was concentrating in the north. Once again, I had no idea why. I didn't know if it was because of the wind blowing in that direction or children's fairyland where there's a lot of young families, but I did know that all of a sudden there was a set of data that we might be able to talk to the city of Oakland about and say maybe we should just put more recycling bins, trash cans, and compost units in areas where we're finding more litter. Could we actually be smarter about how we treat the environment with just a little bit of data? Going one level deeper into the map, each one of those dots represents one piece of litter that's been picked up by someone in the Litterati community. My 2 children go to school right in the bullseye. And when I showed this to a teacher there, this woman looked at me and said, "That is just horrible." And I said, "Ma'am, it's even worse than you think, because this just represents what a few of us have picked up over the last couple of weeks. There are tens of thousands of pieces of litter all around us. We just don't see them anymore. We have become desensitized. Litter is blending into the background of our lives. But when you can show it to somebody in a visual manner, it changes the context of the conversation. It adds a tangibility quality to the conversation." So fast forward a few weeks, suddenly more and more people start joining this movement, and they start tagging what they're picking up. And that was another light bulb moment for me, which says, what if we could open up a conversation with companies like Starbucks and say, "Listen, we're not suggesting you're directly responsible for littering the planet, but your products are finding their way to our playgrounds and our streams and our streets and the ocean. So maybe there's a better way to work together." For example, maybe Starbucks runs a marketing campaign that says, "Anybody who picks up 5 of our items, we'll give you a free cup of coffee. But we're going to give it to you in a reusable mug." So now Starbucks is pushing corporate social responsibility, You and I are psyched, we got a free cup of coffee, and it works for their business model because the 1 cent it cost them in coffee is far outweighed by the $3 muffin that we purchased. And what we like to say at Litterati is that's a win-win-win model. It's a win for you and I, it's a win for the brand, and it's certainly a win for the planet. Remember I said that the vision was a litter-free world? Well, I recognize that is a ridiculously ambitious vision, but here's how I'm proposing we get there. It's a simultaneous bottom-up, top-down approach. The bottom-up approach is find compelling ways for individuals to play their part. And whether that is through the extrinsic quality you feel, the extrinsic quality like a reward of a cup of coffee or a digital badge, or the intrinsic quality you feel for playing a greater good, build this grassroots campaign, this grassroots community, but then use the data, the who, the what, the where, and the when to work top down. Work with cities to be smarter about how we allocate resources. Work with brands to be smarter about packaging. Maybe someday we can actually accomplish a litter-free world. This is what the Litterati community has done so far to date. I started with 1 piece. This week we'll do close to 2,000 pieces, and we're growing. We've been very fortunate. It's really been an honor that our story has been shared, and that's certainly helped it spread globally. I always like to say that I don't want to get here. And the sad reality is we're not that far from there. Citarum River in Indonesia, most people just call it the river of plastic. Certainly this room is all too familiar with the Great Pacific Garbage Patch in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Some of you may know the work of Chris Jordan and the dying albatross who are eating all the plastic. And when you think about rivers of plastic, or conceptually what the Great Pacific Garbage Patch represents, or see images like this, the problem can really feel overwhelming. How to attack a problem like that is 1 piece at a time, because I can pick up 1 piece. And that's exactly what the Litterati community is doing. What I want to show you is how we're starting to work with different groups. First, we'll start with cities. Just recently, the city of Baltimore did a whole Litterati blitz, they called it, right around the Chesapeake Bay, where they collected a ton of data. More importantly to them, it was all about building community, getting people to help clean up the Chesapeake shore. The city of San Jose over Valentine's Day last year ran a I Love San Jose campaign. Part of that campaign was a photo contest where they gave away free tickets to the Sharks, Cirque du Soleil, restaurant vouchers, and for them it was all about building community, showing one's love for your home. The city of San Francisco, we worked with them to do an analysis of what percentage of the litter on their streets was cigarette related, and this was fascinating. The city had an idea that cigarette related was more than just cigarette butts. It was cigarette butts, cigarette packs, and the plastic wrapper that goes around it. We did a 32-site analysis with the city, picking up 4,700 items. And what I learned during this process was each and every city has a litter profile. Berkeley has one, Oakland has one, Amsterdam has one. They don't know what they are, but they have one. And so imagine if all of a sudden we could tell the city of Oakland or the city of San Francisco, here's your litter profile. Which, by the way, it breaks down over time, right? You know what we saw a ton of in the first week of November? Candy wrappers, because of Halloween. On July 5th, a ton of patriotic material because of July 4th. Our belief is that if we get smarter about the problem, it's going to lead us to stronger, more strategic, data-driven solutions. Brands have started working with us. I'll give you 2 examples. Whole Foods. We did a campaign on Earth Day where if you took 1 Litterati photograph and brought it into a store, you got a free cup of coffee. They were psyched because they knew anybody who came in for a cup of coffee was probably going to shop. Chipotle, one of the sponsors of the California Coastal Commission, gave away free burritos for a year. Once again, just incentivizing people in a new way to take care of our planet. The group that I'm probably the most proud of is schools. We started doing work with NOAA and their Ocean Guardian program, which is all about schools. And by the way, you tell any classroom they can use Instagram in their class, they get pretty excited. I thought these kids were all calling me a loser, but they were showing the Litterati logo. Some of them are turning things into art exhibits. This is actually an art exhibit of 24 members of the Litterati that's traveling the country. But it's all about measuring their impact, which allows them to take action. One example, the John C. Fremont Elementary School in Modesto, California. That's their campus. Over the course of a couple of weeks, they picked up 1,247 items, and they figured out that the #1 item on their campus were the plastic straw wrappers. So they went to their principal and said, why are we still buying individually wrapped straws? And they stopped. And that's an example of working top down to eliminate the problem. And what happens when you have all these individuals and all these schools working together, that map I showed you early on now looks like that. And that's our story. Thank you very much.
Quick questions? Yes.
Your work is really great, and you must spend a lot of time on it. Can you just give a little background on how you fund it? I mean, you have to get paid somehow. Just kind of how you get funded.
Yeah, it's been self-funded to date, we have been able to identify several potential revenue sources, and we have made some money early on. I can't tell you with 100% confidence that any of them are long-term viable business models, which is exactly what we're exploring right now, and we are actively going to begin looking for a seed round of capital to build out the infrastructure.
Yes.
It's a great question. So we work on the honor system. Our belief is that we didn't build this for the few people that are going to game the system, and our belief is that even if somebody took a photograph and then just left it there, at the very least we're doing two things. One, we're creating another level of awareness for that individual, and two, we're still collecting the data. This problem is so big, we could be picking up, and we will be picking up litter from now for many, many decades. But if we can just incrementally start to improve one's awareness, we think it's a step in the right direction.
Could I add on, just do you include information about where, how to dispose of the different items they pick up?
One of the data sets we're looking at overlaying on our data set is commercial trash can locations and things of that nature. Our goal is to build what's called an open API to let other people use our data and build on top of our data so that we can all sort of benefit together.
Thank you. Thanks again.